What if I told you there was a document that you could use today that will take your real estate business to a whole different level? Now, what do I mean by a whole different level? This one document, in my opinion, is the most important document you will use in your entire real estate business. And I'm going to give you my version of this document today. All you have to do is stop, watch, and roll with this video. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Mad scientist, what document is this? Of course, it's my Mad Scientist Seller Questionnaire. Now, what makes my document so important, or should I say so different, is the fact that we have made it a fillable, auto-calculated PDF form. What does that mean to you? Simply put, it means that you could fill it in as a normal PDF and reuse it over and over and over again. But most importantly, you're able to calculate the actual maximum allowable offer. For those of you who don't know, the maximum allowable offer is the formula that we use in order to calculate how much we should pay a seller for a deal. My form actually has this built into it, a calculation feature. So stay by, stick by, and I'm going to show you exactly how to fill it out, but most importantly, how and why you ask the questions that you ask in this seller questionnaire. Stay tuned right now. Okay, this is your deal review questionnaire. In my opinion, this is the most important document you will have as part of your CloseKit. I'm going to break down each section, what goes into where, but I really want you to pay close attention to the psychology behind the questions. What am I thinking and why am I asking the question? So really pay close attention to it. Now, the reason why this document that we've created is so important, because it will allow you to determine what's going to be the best exit out of this deal. When you're using it properly, you'll be able to determine if this is going to be a wholesale deal, if this is going to be a rehab deal, if it's going to be a buy and hold deal, is it going to be a master lease type of deal? The questions that you ask will allow you to analyze the deal properly. Now, the best part about this one is that it's an autofill type of form, which means I'm going to give you guys this actual PDF that you'll be able to autofill, basically type in and it will save it on the document. And then it also has the capability of calculating your actual estimate of what you want to give the offer to the seller as. That's another key feature to this document that I'm going to give to you. If you just stay to the end and watch the video all the way through, you'll find out exactly how to get it. Let's start off with the first section. Now, on the first part, you're basically putting in the date that you're filling in this document. Next, you're going to put in the actual owner's name, the property address, the owner's address, if this owner has a home phone, a cell phone number. You want to also put in what type of source, where did this property come from? Was it from cold calling? Was it from a vacant list? Yada, yada, yada. The lead servicing. This is the person who is taking the deal and is going to be actually handling this lead. It could be the person that's on the phone doing the cold calling, our lead agent. It could be a virtual assistant. It could be whomever in your acquisition department is taking this lead. That will go into this actual number, this actual box here. Next, we get down to the section that says what type of property. You're going to check whether it's detached, semi-detached, or a row or townhouse. The next section goes into the question, what can you tell me about the property? Now, the reason why we ask this question is because we want to get the seller in a mood of talking. We want to build that rapport with that person. We want them to give us information that can help us determine what the actual value is of this property. What's the reason why the seller is selling, and so on. In other words, it's all about to get the flow of conversation going. Now, in this situation, the seller says the property was recently updated 15 years ago. Has new kitchen, new bath, paint, carpet, gas, heat, HVAC, and it basically has wood windows. Roof is about 20 years old. Right away, I'm already thinking this is going to be a complete update. The cabinets are pretty old. You're looking at the kitchen. Bathroom is pretty old. Everything's going to need to be updated, new paint, and possibly new carpet as well. So I'm looking at all of those things when I ask that question. Next question. Basically, you're saying, sound like you have a nice house. Why are you selling? This goes into the motivation behind the person selling. You want to try to figure out, this person is really motivated, or is this person just trying to get the highest and best price from their actual answer? Now, how much does property sell for in this area? I want to know if this owner of this property has or understanding of what the value is in the neighborhood. This could be a good plus if they don't, because you may be able to get it at a good deal. Or if it's a situation where the person may give you a valuation, well, I think the houses sell for 180, and then you find out that the houses doesn't sell for 180. You can always use that information as a better part of negotiation. So that's the reason why I asked the question. How much does property in your area sell for? Not that every owner is going to know this, but if they do, it'll give you a window inside of their knowledge when it comes to valuation. Next question. Does your property need any repairs? I like to ask this question because I follow it up with, well, if they say yes, what kind of repairs? So I'm going to try to use those answers to determine if this property is going to need $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 or more worth of repairs based on the questions I'm going to ask. Now, what kind of questions will I be asking? How old is the kitchen? How old is the bathroom? When's the last time it's been updated? How old is this roof? Is this the same roof you had on the property when you moved in? What about your HVAC unit? Do you have gas heat? Do you have windows that are wood, or do you have replacement windows? All of this goes into the valuation of the property, and that's the reason why I asked, do the house need any repairs? Because I want to follow up and try to get an answer as to what kind of repairs are needed. Next question. How long have you owned the property? Now, the reason why I'm asking that question, because it's going to go towards, well, maybe there's some equity in this property or not. For example, if the person said, I've owned the property for 1 year and they didn't put a significant amount of money down, then there's a good chance that there's no equity in this property. However, it also tells you another way in which you can buy this property. Maybe you can take over payments. Maybe you can do a master lease. Maybe you can do a rent to own. So that's why I love that question of how long have you owned the property, because the next question is going to go into play in regard to the numbers that count. The next question, is the mortgage current or not? Now, self-explanatory. I want to know if the mortgage is current, if they're behind on their mortgage. Is this a pre-foreclosure? Have the bank sent any notice if the property is not current on their mortgage? What's going on with this property? That's the reason why I'm asking that question. Now, if the person comes back and say, no, the mortgage isn't current, the next question is, how many months behind are you? The reason why I want to ask that question is because I want to know exactly what's going on with this property. I want to know if it's 1 month, this is in pre-foreclosure, is in foreclosure, what we going on with this property, and so on. Next question, how much do you owe on the mortgage? Remember I talked about the numbers that count? There are about 5 numbers that you need to get, and this is one of the main numbers. How much do you owe on the mortgage? Well, the reason why I'm asking that question is because I want to determine how I'm going to take over this property. What's the mortgage balance is? Is there equity in the property? Could I do a subject to? Could I do a short sale? And so on and so on. So that's why I'm going into these questions, especially the questions about mortgage balance, and the next question, how much is your mortgage payment? By knowing the mortgage payment, we go back over, could I do a rent to own on this deal? Could I do a guaranteed rent on this deal? Is this a deal where, is it a situation where the mortgage payment is so low, it's a great property to rent out? So remember I talked about your exit strategy. And this one sheet will allow you to figure out exactly what type of exit strategy you want to do. Next question, how much do you need to sell the property? You never ask a person how much do they want, because you always want to make this a need. And when you make it a need, you make it a situation where the seller is going to say, well, I need $170,000. I need $75,000. Not I want, well, I want $1 million. Well, I want $2 million. So always make that question a need to find out exactly where the seller is at on their pricing. How did you come up with that number? So once the seller gave me the dollar amount that they need, I want to know how they came up with that number. And the reason why I'm asking that is because I want to see, is they using logic in their answer? Are they on a sense of reality? Well, I came up with that number because the house across the street sold for XYZ. Now I can use that against the seller if the house across the street did not sell for that. Or if the seller said, my neighbor around the corner sold their house for $200,000 and I know my house looks just as good as theirs, that's why I can get $200,000.
Well, now I can pull up that property, get that address, see what kind of condition it is, and say, Mr. Jackson, you were right. The house did sell for $200,000. But if you look at this house around the corner, it was totally rehab. And I have to do a lot more work on your property to bring it into that condition. So we just used the facts that the seller gave us against them. And that's the reason why we came up with that question. How did you come up with that number? Because it's a great way to get that seller back to reality. Now, if you're unable to sell, what will you do? The reason for that question is it allows us to put the seller in the state of mind of, man, if I don't sell this property, I'm going to be in trouble. Especially if that's the case. Maybe they don't sell the property, they got to move, or maybe they don't sell the property, or they're going to be foreclosed on. So you want to make sure you can bring up the pain that will happen if they don't sell the property. Next part, we got the exit strategy. We skip past that. Buy and hold, we can skip past that because right here we determine whether it's a wholesale deal, it's a rehab deal, or a buy and hold, or it could be an owner structured finance deal. So you have the option to put down here exactly what type of deal it is. Let's go down to the deal analysis part, and this is where all the magic has. This is an automated calculated form, so you can actually fill in the information and it'll do the calculations for you. So let's go ahead and start off at 0 on this form. I'm going to delete all the information out, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Now let's say the actual valuation of this property is $200,000. Okay, so the valuation is 200. Boom, 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 boom. Now, using the maximum allowable offer, let's say the valuation in the neighborhood is 70%. So times 70%, 200,000 equals $140,000. So we know 70% of 200 is $140,000. Now we have to minus the repairs. So let's say the repairs on this deal is $20,000. Now, if this was going to be a deal where we do a buy and hold or a deal where we do a rehab to flip, then we put in the financing costs. But since this is going to be a wholesale deal, we're going to skip that. Next, we're going to put in the actual profit we want to make, because before you put in the profit, it tells you right here. It already did all the calculation that the maximum allowable offer you want to make is $120,000 before you put in the profit you want to. That is what we call our automated deal review sheet.
Remember, the seller questionnaire isn't the most important part. It's building rapport with the seller and making sure that you ask those questions in a fluid type of manner. And what I mean by that, don't just sound the questions out. Bring it into the conversation that you're having with these sellers. And that's how you're going to be able to get those deals closed. That's how you're going to be able to get those tough questions answered. But most importantly, that's how you're going to be able to understand the numbers that count. And remember, I'm giving each and every one of you guys a copy of my autofill, auto-calculated seller questionnaire. All you got to do is leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.